Welcome to the Buck Brief. We got Ned Ryun in the house on this episode. Our good friend Ned, he is the founder of American Majority, and he is going to fight like hell to make sure that the communists lose this upcoming
Correct.
election. And we're going to talk to him about how that's all going. I mean, let's jump right into that, shall we? Because here's the
Yeah.
problem as I see it, Ned. Trump ahead in all the polls, basically, right? All the polls that
Right.
matter that show the states that are up for grabs, the swing states. I worry, though, that the other side still has better election machinery, especially in
Yes.
Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, the Rust
Y-
Belt, if you will. Tell me what's going on with this, first of all. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, no, I'm running like we're behind. I think there's a lot of positive signs. I mean, I love a good poll, Buck, but for me, it's like a weather forecast. Could be right, could be wrong. Positive sign, Trump was never like this in 2016 or 2020 like he is in 2024. So good, that should give us hope. That's great. Yeah, the left is very good at this ballot collection game. They also have a few other things they've been cooking up. I mean, it's kind of a lot of people are feeling really good right now on the right as the poll numbers are looking great for Trump. This lawfare is completely collapsing like I thought it might, and I think poll numbers will get even better for Trump. That all to say, this presidential race is coming down to 7 states. It's going to be Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. So it's 7 states. The question is, are we going to have our A game in regards to creating more ballots among mid to low prop Republican voters? Are we going to increase our registration among the base in these 7 states before the deadlines in October? And then are we going to do the right things in collecting at least 80, if not 85% of the ballots by November 5th to make sure that Donald Trump wins? Those are the numbers that count, Buck. The other thing that gives me a little bit of pause is, and I'm sure you've talked about this, Biden's executive order in the spring of 2021 that has essentially taken our taxpayer dollars and turned a lot of pieces of the government into essentially a get out the vote machine for him. So that's a problem. And I also think that this idea of non-citizens getting federal ballots, some of it's been beaten back, but I still have question marks about games that are going to play on that front as well. So, yeah, I'm optimistic. I think we've got a good plan in place, but I'm not sleeping on. I think I'm going to run like I'm behind all the way until November 5th, and I think everybody else should as well.
Who does that stuff that you talked about? I mean, just for you work in this world, so you just can speak about like the movement, people doing it, but who's making sure that we get obviously, there's the Trump campaign, what the campaign's doing, but
Right.
who else is involved in making sure that in Pennsylvania we start to close the gap of registered voters, that we have ballot chase
Yep.
where it's applicable, that we do early voting where it's applicable? Like, what are the entities, both sort of official and now more grassroots, that are playing a role in this for this election cycle?
So I think the listeners, the viewers need to understand there's some things that have taken place in recent times because of Mark Elias, by the way, Buck, who requested from the FEC a ruling in regards to
Just
how
real quick, he's
coordinated
like the Democrat dirty tricks election lawyer
dirty
guy.
trickster.
In
Right.
case in case anyone doesn't know, he's
Behind
the election dirty trickster.
Correct. And behind Russian collusion and all this crazy Steele dossier, he requested from the FEC not too long ago a ruling in regards to how closely could outside groups coordinate in regards to canvassing, door knocking, with an actual campaign. And the ruling came down that, in fact, there could be coordination between campaigns and outside groups in regards to canvassing specifically, in regards to what doors are being knocked, the data being exchanged, advice on messages, etc. And so I think there's going to be a lot of good things taking place between the Trump campaign and some outside groups in regards to making sure the right targeting is taking place in those key states, the right messaging, all of these things. And obviously, a data exchange has to take place on the back end. But you asked me about outside groups. RSLC, the Republican State Legislative Committee, is doing some great work in regards to doing ballot generation, ballot chase. I know the Sentinel group, Heritage Action, they're doing some good work on this front. Turning Point's starting to try and play in this. We'll see how effective their work is. American Majority Action is doing this. SBA List, Susan B. Anthony List is doing some of this. So there's some fairly robust groups that are in the right places, doing the right thing. Call it 5.5 months out from the election. So the ball is moving in the right direction. The question is, are we going to get all of the funding necessary to do all of this to the 100% that we need it done, right? We going to be able to generate enough ballots? That's an arms race all the way until October. I mean, in Arizona, for example, Buck, you can request an absentee ballot all the way up until October 25th. So are we going to have all the funding necessary to create ballots up to the deadlines? And then are you going to chase in 80 to 85% of those ballots? And I think the groups that are doing it are starting to get on the right path. We've been talking about this in American Majority for the last year and a half. And I think a lot of people are waking up to realizing we need to fund absentee ballot generation, and we need to fund voter registration to those deadlines, and we need to fund absentee ballot chase. And the good news, there's a couple good things on this front, Buck. Trump is actually embracing this. If you haven't noticed some of his recent comments, not only at the recent rally, but also on Truth Social that have been posted on Twitter, it's okay to request an absentee ballot. It's okay to vote early in person. And if you want to vote on election day, that's fine, but have a plan. The other thing that is also working in our favor is the fact that the RNC has changed leadership, Buck. I was fully convinced that if Ronna and her team stayed in the place they were, that it was going to be severely damaging to Trump in this election. They finally woke up to that reality. They changed. They put in the right leadership. I'm bullish on our chances because of those changes, because of the things that have taken place, and because of the focus and the priorities, not only of the Trump campaign, but by extension, the RNC.
Want to come into how you think all this legal stuff against Trump is going to shake out. We've got the New York City trial already underway, as Ned and I are talking. That'll be up here. We'll dive into it in just a second. But I recently watched a documentary called America's Last Election. You've got to check this out. It's produced by my good friend, the legendary economist Porter Stansberry, who for the last 25 years has predicted almost every major economic and financial move in both directions. He exposed the corruption at the heart of a major American automobile company and warned of the collapse of major lenders and predicted the 2008 financial crisis. This is all in writing. You can go check this out for yourself. But this documentary details how a new financial crisis could be brewing in America right now and the dangers it poses to millions of Americans. He's paying rapt attention to recent events in our nation and the serious repercussions they could have for you, your future, and your finances. How you work, where you live, how you plan for retirement, nothing may ever be the same. So make sure you watch this new documentary while it's online. Go to www.lastelectiondocumentary.com. That's lastelectiondocumentary.com. Lastelectiondocumentary.com. Paid for by Porter and Company. Ned, the stuff that we're seeing go on in New York, I mean, you and I sit here, you know, it's absurd, it's disgraceful, it's terrible for the country. Like, we can just take as a granted that this is, and I spent a lot of time on radio going through, they held it, they're rigging it, they're misapplying the law. Like, we've done a lot of that, right? Is it blowing up in the Democrats' faces, though? Like, can we already say, looking at the data, that this isn't working as intended? Is it even going in the other direction where they might be losing swing voters? Or is it just too early to know? And we got to see how it plays out.
I'm seeing a trend. You know, we talked about this, I don't know, what was it, 2, 3, 4 months ago, in which I said, look at the opposite side of the coin. This is a central part to Joe Biden's reelection campaign, this political lawfare. I think it is going to blow up because the merits of it are purely political. There's no legal merit to any of these. And I think that's playing out in real time. I think you see it reflected in the polls. And I think you're seeing it. I mean, you and I, like you said, you and I follow politics pretty much 24/7, 365 days a year. It's what we do. The normies, the people that don't, the people that kind of sort of pay attention every now and then, but really only when elections come close, I think it's breaking through to them. Anecdotally, I see that, but also in the poll numbers when people are saying, we really don't care what happens with these cases. It's not changing our mind at all on who we're going to vote for. We're still going to vote for Donald Trump because they know that it's actually rigged. They know that there's no merit to this except for its political lawfare, and they're trying to take out the chief political opponent for Joe Biden. So, yeah, I'm optimistic that you're going to see all of the. First of all, this one's collapsing in real time. This Bragg case. I mean, Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen are your two star witnesses. Give me a break. I mean, come on. If that's what you're basing your hopes on, that's pretty pathetic. And I think it's going to collapse. You know, and then the other cases, I'm not even sure they're going to be heard or there's going to be a trial before the election. So that's gone. for Biden's reelection campaign, and it is backfiring. And I think it's these normies are going. This is a gross abuse of our legal system for purely political reasons, and they're finding it repulsive.
I would think that you'd have to at least see where independents are swinging on this one because and come to that conclusion because so far people are talking about it almost as if Trump is the incumbent president. I mean, for a challenger
Yep.
against an incumbent at this stage to have the kind of numbers in the key states that he does, there's got to be a panic for the Democrats. I mean, if you were to war game this from the other side of the battlefield, or if you're looking at this from the other side of the chessboard,
right?
So we sound a little I sound a little less nerdy here, or maybe that's more nerdy. I don't know, whatever. But if you were to do that, what do you think the Democrat?
Together.
Yeah, what do you think? Thank you. What do you think the Democrat plan is here to turn their fortunes around? I mean, is this a little bit of a playing possum thing where, oh, Biden's numbers are so bad, oh, it's so bad, and then look at Katie Hobbs in Arizona, not debating, no campaign, whatever. Right. She just knew she had the votes where she needed the votes. End of story. Like, how do you see the Democrat strategy?
I kind of see it that way. They are focused on trying to increase their ballot universes. I mean, again, like, not to sound like a broken record, Buck, they're looking at the same things I'm looking at. Can we increase our ballot universes in these 7 key states? Can we continue to register and build our base in these 7 key states? And quite frankly, how many non-citizens can we get a federal ballot into the hands of in hopes that enough of those slip through the system to actually be counted? So by all means, legal, and I would argue illegal, they have a plan. And the question is, like I said, it's an arms race. Who's going to win the arms race and focus on the right numbers and actually have the bigger number come November 5th? So, yeah, they've got a plan. I mean, again, think about the fact that Biden issued that executive order in the spring of 21. They knew he was going to be a weak president and a weak incumbent, and they started 3 years ago putting pieces in place for the reelection in November of 2024. Yeah, they've got a plan. They're thinking ahead. They're looking long term, and they realize, we might. I think some realists among them understand this is going to be an even harder hill to climb than they would have thought a year ago. But yeah, they know they've got a great ballot generation and collection machine. And the question is, can we match them? And here's the thing, Buck. I don't think we have to match them exactly. We don't have to bring our A+ game to win in these 7 states. We need to be present. We need to have a B or B+ game, hopefully A- at the worst. We could settle for A-, and we can beat them. But that's what they're banking on. They're banking on we're going to have more ballots collected than Donald Trump in these 7 states, and we're going to win. And again, look at how close these elections have been. If they can sneak out another 10,000 votes like they did in Arizona and basically the same in Nevada, a little bit more, 20,000 in Wisconsin, they put Joe Biden back in the White House. And I tend to think, despite the polls being rosy for Trump right now, I am looking at these battleground states as probably being razor-thin margins one way or the other. I just don't think this is going to be a landslide on November 5th.
So you think it's going to be a tense election night, even if maybe the good guys win? Like, this is not going to be some kind of, it's not going to be Ron DeSantis' reelection in Florida where he wins by 20 points. No. The whole thing's a joke. Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, the left is wired for political power. It's their precious. And I would call them their dark, twisted souls, like a little Gollum.
Yeah, Gollum is kind of the left. Gollum is kind of the Democrat mascot, whether they realize it or not.
My precious is political power. You think they're just going to sit down and go, oh, Donald Trump won or is winning. We're going to lose. Oh, well. Oh, my gosh. No, I've been telling people, I don't know what they're going to pull out. I've talked about some of that with you, but I'm expecting some new tricks the next 5 months. They're not going to take this sitting down. They're not going to let Donald Trump just waltz back into the White House because they view him as an existential threat to the administrative state and the status quo, obviously their hold on power. So, yeah, I think they're going to pull out the stops. I think this is going to be much closer than people are thinking right now.
Well, I think you're right. And I'm
don't sleep on it.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to be hopeful, but not.
We should be.
Not get ahead of myself, right? I mean, because 2022, we got to learn the lessons, man. That we went in, we went into that one like, oh, things are great. The American people have woken up since COVID, and just was like a buzzsaw that we walked into.
I was one of those. I was overly optimistic, looking at trends, looking at historical, all of these things, and also approval numbers. And we ran into the buzzsaw of their ballot collection machine. I'm never going to let that happen again.
All right, before I let you go, I'm going to have you recommend one book of any kind that you want everyone out there to read that they probably haven't already read. So, I mean, I see you have The Last Lion behind you there with William Manchester about Winston Churchill.
Yep.
I read that my freshman year of college. Absolutely love it.
Yep.
We could do this. I've got Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged behind you. Obviously, love it. SPQR, Mary Beard, love it. Bonhoeffer, Eric Metaxas. I see a bunch of the ones here. So I want you to give us one that's not in the Hall of Fame that's behind you that you've read recently that you like. But first, I just got to speak to something else for 1 second. Well, I'm going to give you a minute to think about it, Ned. And that is Patriot Defender. This couldn't come at a better time. A membership offer from a company that I'm actually a partner in, Patriot Defender, legal defense for you and me, the kind we need most. No-cost legal defense to protect your rights, freedoms, reputation, and your way of life. Speak about a school board meeting, about vaccine mandates or trans issues or whatever. Suffer consequences against you, your employment, something like that. Your legal defense is covered. Your right to free speech is denied. You suffer consequences. Legal defense is covered. Patriot Defender. Their website's patriotdefender.com. And very soon they'll be able to provide this membership in your state if not already able to do so. Patriot Defender will provide both open and concealed carry self-defense and your right to defend yourself and your family when you need to. They can even provide you with IRS audit assistance if you're targeted for political reasons. I'm a believer in this, so go check it out. PatriotDefender.com. Patriot Defender is the only membership that goes beyond defense for concealed carry weapons. Patriot Defender will cover what others won't. Go to PatriotDefender.com. Sign up today. Ned, what is the book for you, sir? You want to recommend to everybody? Fun book, important book, whatever you want.
I'm going to cheat and tell two books by the same author.
Okay.
How's that?
I like it.
Nick Bunker wrote two phenomenal books, Making Haste from Babylon and An Empire on the Edge. And Making Haste from Babylon is the journey of the separatists, the Puritans, in leaving England and how they eventually got to the Americas and settled in the Americas and what their vision was for this country. An Empire on the Edge is really those last days before really the Civil War between Englishmen on either side of the Atlantic and the philosophies that were taking place. He writes extremely well. He's a brilliant writer. I hope that I can write that well someday. But yeah, Nick Bunker, Making Haste from Babylon, and An Empire on the Edge. I think those are both great reads for people if they're interested in really pre-revolutionary American history.
I'm going to go pick them up. Excellent recommendations from our friend Ned Ryun. Ned,
thank you.
We're going to have you back. We'll talk more elections. Please go win this thing for us, though. Go do what you do.
Do my best.
Go do that political ninja stuff and make sure that we defeat the communists. Thank you, as always, my friend. Good to see you.
Thanks, Buck.